Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me? Okay. Chief guest, the keynote speakers, leaders of Sukkur IBA, faculty members, students, colleagues, it's a pleasure, it's an honor for me to be here at Sukkur IBA. Somebody was telling me yesterday that it's kind of an annual ritual for me to come and visit Sukkur IBA on one pretext and another. For me, it's not just a matter of great honor, but also a matter of great pleasure. I understand that the conference theme is focused on AI, innovation, technology, and sustainability. And my argument is this, that all of these are important, but one thing which is prerequisite for all of the above is ethical leadership. So surely, as my colleague Mumtaz presented yesterday, that even for AI, we would like to have ethicality of AI. Sustainability, we would like to have an ethical perspective of sustainability, and so on and so forth. So let me start with, given that I am in the land of Indus, in the land of sense, so let me start from a folk wisdom from a town which lies right at River Sindh, Mithankot. And in Mithankot, there is a Saraiki poet, Saraiki Sufi poet, and you know his name, and his name is Khwaja Ghulam Farid. So I thought that maybe I need to learn, and we need to learn from Khwaja Ghulam Farid, that what exactly does Saraiki folk wisdom tell us about leadership. So he says something, Khwaja Ghulam Farid, in one of his kafis, and I thought that when I read those couplets, I thought that he was talking about leaders such as us, leaders who are around us, wherever we are, in Lahore, Sukkur, Karachi, maybe elsewhere. So Khwaja Ghulam Farid says that Asan so bad mast kalandar hoon, kadi masjid hoon, kadi mandar hoon. Sometimes you will find us in mosques, and sometimes you will find us in temples, and we are intoxicated dervishes. And then Khwaja Sahib says, kadi chor banu, kadi jar banu. Chor is thief, jar is transgressor. Kadi tauba, astaghfar banu. And you will also see us doing all those hajjs and umrahs and doing all the tauba and astaghfar. Kadi zuhud, ibadat kar banu. Kadi fisk, fujuri andar ho. That we are the evildoers, but we are the ones who also do the right things. I don't know whether somebody had a chance to read one of the case studies which was published. I wrote it a couple of years ago. It was about, I would not like to name him, but I'm sure that ki aap apna taaruf hawa bahar ki hai. It's about a very famous property tycoon of Pakistan, who is not only famous for his wealth, but also famous for his philanthropy. So that's the kind of leadership that we are currently experiencing here in Pakistan. So ladies and gentlemen, the paper which I would like to share with you this morning is about ethical leadership. I was supported by Ramsha, Naeem, and Areeba, Mumtaz in collecting the data and analyzing what's the shape of ethical leadership in Pakistan and how ethical leadership has to be somewhat differently perceived than what we see in the conventional management literature. So let's, I hope that it works, yeah. So ethical leadership, I'm sure that those of you who work in the area of leadership has been defined as a demonstration of normatively appropriate conduct. So normatively means that whatever is the norm, whatever is normed to be expected as correct, that would be normative. So whether it's a norm of legal compliance, whether it is a norm of following certain societal and religious values. Ethical leadership is reported to be constrained due to structural conditions. You know that song by Ali Haider, "Yahan ka system hi hai kharab." So since yahan ka system hi hai kharab, so I can't do anything because I'm constrained by the culture. I'm constrained by the institutions, and therefore, although I wanted to be an ethical leader, but I cannot be an ethical leader because I'm constrained. There are structural constraints around me. call it political constraints. So the research gap which we identify is that in the leadership literature, there is a dominant focus on individual traits, leaders' personality, and moral values. There is a lot of focus. I'm sure that management, faculty members, practitioners, students, they are aware of the trait-based model of leadership. And organizational and societal contexts have been treated as a background. Yeah, individual traits are the most important. Although there is a societal context, it also has a role to play. So research on ethical leadership, we argue, remains fragmented, creating a divide between structure and agency of leadership. So there is so much focus on the agency of leadership, on the trait-based model of leadership, that the structure remains ignored. And that is something which we are trying to address through this research. So we respond by theorizing ethical leadership as a multi-level relational perspective, that these things have to be taken into account at multiple levels, at the societal level, at the organizational level, but also at the individual level. Okay, so research question which we tried to address through this study was, how do macro, which is societal, meso, which is organizational, and micro, which is individual, level factors interact with one another to influence the enactment of ethical leadership? So why do we not see so many ethical leaders as we would like to see around us, including us? Okay, so this is the model. With Mustafa's Bilgin, I worked on this model. It was published back in 2009, 16 years ago, in the International Journal of Human Resource Management, where we thought that, look, whenever we talk about the international transfer of diversity management, then it has to be conceived, it has to be designed at 3 interconnected levels. And in this specific study, which I'm presenting to you today, we are talking about that how that multi-level model can be utilized, can be adopted to the context of leadership or ethical leadership. So let's very, very quickly, I would like you and us to take a look at the literature, and then I will bring you to the meat of the study, where I will share with you the qualitative insights. So the literature says, the leadership literature at the macro level, surely cultural norms, societal values, societal traditions, they are important, so they do shape us in one way or another. At the meso level, organizational culture and climate, ethical role models, systems of accountability, they do have an effect on the enactment of ethical leadership. At the micro level, the personality traits, the moral values, the family upbringing, the role models across childhood, all of these are important. So we argue that ethical leadership emerges through interaction across levels. So these 3 levels, they have to be simultaneously taken into account if we would really like to develop ethical leaders. So fakat individual baat se baat nahi banegi. So just a focus on individual traits would not be enough. Just a focus on societal context would not be enough. All of these have to be holistically considered. Okay, so the study's context, of course, is Pakistan, the 5th most populous country, around 240 billion people. Unfortunately, the country ranks 140 out of 180 on the Corruption Perception Index, so this is not something to be proud of, but that is the context within which we thought that this research is particularly relevant in the Pakistani context. There are many scandals, name them, Panama paper leaks, non-leaks, Al-Qadir University scandal, and so on and so forth. So the method was that we drew on in-depth qualitative interviews, 28. So we continued to collect data until the themes were saturated. Senior leaders, CEOs, COOs, HR heads. So so basically it was conducted in the context of business, public and private sectors. Our participants were from Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad. And ethical protocols of research were followed. Thematic analysis was conducted. So I'm sure that you cannot read it, but this is the demographic overview of the 28 participants. So what exactly are the themes, and what exactly does the qualitative data tell us? So let me share with you. At the macro level, the participants' accounts revealed that surely the institutional constraints or the institutional factors, they are relevant. in the way they are able to enact or not enact ethical leadership. So for example, one participant who was head of HR in the engineering sector, a male, 40 years old, he said that Pakistan is an agricultural economy and a major issue lies within the Patwari system, which is land administration record system. To address this, an online appointment system was introduced. Under this system, you register to get an appointment and expect that if you arrive at 9 a.m., you will be free within a few minutes. However, when you reach office, you realize you have to spend the entire day there. In practice, the system that was meant to be implemented is not actually followed, leaving room for bribery to expedite the affairs. So you see that, the digitization was there in a way, AI was there, but the intention was not there. The intention was to impede it. So these are the institutional constraints. Okay, education. When I began, and socialization, when I began teaching at one of the top schools, I noticed the emphasis on achieving high grades. So we have to get the A star, or we have to get the A's. And specifically getting A's had become so intense that students were no longer taught about anything else or the morality of their conduct. So when end becomes more important than the means, so this means that the ethical code of conduct is being heavily compromised. At the macro level, there was also, given that Pakistan is a dominantly Muslim majority country, 96-97% of us are Muslims. So religious ideology does play a role. For example, I still bow down when I meet my primary school teacher because I respect them deeply. I believe all religions teach these basic values, but our religion in particular places strong emphasis on respect and moral conduct. So they were referring to religious values as well. So that was the societal level. Let's go to the meso level, which is the organizational level. Organizational culture. So you know and we know that majority of businesses in Pakistan, they are family owned and they are making valuable contribution to Pakistan's GDP and economy and employment. So here is one quote from a family business. Children of directors and owners often do not feel the need to struggle as they see themselves as born directors. They view leadership positions as a birthright, their authority is not increasingly fair, and they justify their entitlement by alluding that blood is thicker than water. So that was the organizational culture within which ethical leadership was being expected. Accountability mechanisms or the lack thereof. In such and such company, employees are often given designation that do not align with formal grading structures, the pay grading structure. So basically the gentleman was referring to, not the gentleman, the female was, the lady was referring to the pay inequity. So the pay inequity, which itself is considered a challenge to ethical practices in organizations. Professional development was also referred to at the meso level. We digitized our learning system and introduced mandatory e-learning modules using platforms similar to LinkedIn Learning and so on and so forth. A compulsory course on the code of conduct was developed in the digital learning system. Completion of this course was made a prerequisite for employees' performance appraisal, meaning that only those who completed the training were eligible for appraisal. So this means that organizations, if they want, they can implement the ethical conduct in one way or another. At the micro level, which is the most interesting level, which is the individual level, where comes the role of individual agency. That institutional constraints are there, but yet at the same time, I would not be willing to compromise my own principles, whatever those principles are. So enactment of ethical values, a CEO, 59 years old, of an engineering sector company, he said, if you ask me to define leadership in a single word, I would say leaders are givers, not takers. If you read history, you will find figures such as Qaid-e-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Nelson Mandela, or Gandhi, they were all givers. So basically his personal belief was that in order to be a CEO, in order to be an authentic leader, he has to be a giver. He must not be a taker. So let me very, very quickly refer to that while all of these multi-level factors are important, at the macro level, at the meso level, at the micro level, the uniqueness of this research is that it shows that these levels are interconnected, and those must not be investigated in isolation. So therefore, any intervention in an institution or at the government level, it has to consider all three levels. So it cannot be done in a piecemeal fashion. So for example, let me share with you. that how macro and micro levels are connected. I will not be sharing all the examples, just as a specimen. So for example, once again, the same CEO in the engineering sector company, he said that when I graduated, I applied to a government department and was assigned to the Industrial Development Bank. When we started manufacturing generators, a representative from Pakistan Telecom came to me through a strong reference. During our discussion, he asked me for a settlement, out of the procedure, and told me to quote a competitive price. I told him that although he had raised this issue directly with me today, if I ever heard such a demand in the future, he would never be able to do business with us. So this is where the individuals, they have to make a choice. Yeah, there are thieves around us. There are people who frequently compromise on ethical conduct, but I would not do that. So that's where the individual agency, that despite the institutional constraint, I'm not there to compromise. And there are many such examples. So let me go to the... So this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is the model which we are presenting through this paper. We are hoping to submit it to a journal and also to the Academy of Management conference in the US. So this is the relational framework of ethical leadership, where there are factors at the macro, meso, and micro level. But what is more interesting is how those levels interact. And those interact in order to produce ethical or unethical leaders. So what exactly is our theoretical contribution? We have not done something dramatic here. We have just added a relational nuance to the ethical leadership literature, rather than a one-sided or a one-level approach. So we have basically made use of Syed and Spelkin's relational framework, which was originally conceived in the area of diversity management. So we have contributed to the structure agency debate, reflecting the ongoing negotiation between individual agency and the structure within the context of the leadership literature. Practical implications, there is important role of government, comprehensive code of ethics, but more importantly and most importantly, such intervention should be at the multiple levels instead of just one level. So that was all from my side. Thank you very much.
Professor Dr. Jawad Syed, thank you so much for such an inspiring speech.